Article 1 is adopted.
What is at risk here is the very idea of America.
It doesn't really feel like we're being impeached, do you? The country is doing better than ever before. We did nothing wrong.
Impeached, abuse of power, and obstruction of justice. Valley congressmen playing key roles in the war of words during a stunning moment in our nation's history.
And how I'm going to beat President Trump is by appealing to people's basic interest.
The little-known presidential candidate from California, ready to take on Trump in the Republican primary. Matt Matern joins me in studio. And our panel is in place from the impeachment debate to their bold political predictions for the 2020 election year. It's all on KC24, Sunday Morning Matters.
Now, from KC24, your local election headquarters, with your host, Alexandre Balakian. This is Sunday Morning Matters.
Good Sunday morning to you and happy holidays. I'm Alexandre Balakian. Thank you for joining us, and we do invite you to join the conversation at Real Alexandre. Use the hashtag Sunday Morning Matters. Along the way, a new local race heating up. But first, a seesaw war of words on the House floor turns into a vote for impeaching President Trump.
I have not made this decision lightly, but I must uphold my own oath of office because I believe the president has failed to uphold his oath of office. The weight of history and my belief in the Constitution of the United States and our own national security interests have led me to this vote.
But the only thing President Trump is guilty of is beating Hillary Clinton. The Democrats refuse to accept that loss, and now they're indicating they'll continue their impeachment efforts even after this one fails in the U.S. Senate.
After more than 10 hours of debate on the House floor Wednesday and then months worth of reports and investigations, the House officially impeaching President Trump on both articles drafted by House Democrats. Article 1 claims the president abused his power. The final vote for Article 1, 230 Democrats in favor, 197 Republicans opposed. However, 2 Democrats also oppose Article 1. For Article 2, which is accusing the president of obstruction of Congress, 229 in favor of obstruction, no Republicans. 198 voted in opposition. That included 3 Democrats. Now, this makes it only the 3rd time in our nation's history a sitting president has been impeached. So what's next? The Constitution states impeachment now moves to a trial in the Senate. Lawmakers will decide whether or not to remove President Trump from office. Senators will decide a date for the trial as well as the rules, such as what kind of evidence and witnesses they will allow. In that trial, senators will serve as jurors. House representatives will serve as prosecutors, while the Chief Justice of the U.S. will preside. So at the end of the trial, a vote before the public is held, and 2/3 of senators present would have to agree to convict the president, thus removing him from office. If the president is convicted on at least one charge, the Constitution says he will be removed from office. So lots to politically stomach here over the last few days. So digesting it all, our panel. Time for roll call. KC24 political analyst Jim Veros, KMJ political commentator and local business leader Mike Germanuel Jr., and former Democratic congressional candidate and board member for the Progressive Caucus of the California Democratic Party, Ricardo Franco. Ricardo, that is a mouthful, all those titles you have there. I do want to start with you, Ricardo, because really the fact here is I named off the votes, and really it was bipartisan against impeaching the president, but it was partisan on passing the articles. How do you see that really transforming into this is really working for the Democrats here?
Well, I mean, I think it's barely bipartisan. It was just a small little handful. And one of them switched, I believe, just today to being a Republican from being a Democrat. But the sad thing is that it's an election year. Congress critters are Congress critters. And getting reelected for some of them above the interests of the American people is a priority for them. It's not right, and it needs to change. And within our own Democratic Party, we are trying to change that as well. I mean, we even had one that didn't vote one way or the other, but just voted present.
Mike, you saw a lot of our local congressmen play a big role here, key roles in this, whether it be T.J. Cox, Jim Costa really deciding. A couple of weeks ago, he was still on the fence, even though I knew he was going to be in lockstep with Nancy Pelosi there. But what is this? What is the message here locally for those congressmen in these races now?
I think the irony for Costa's vote, and you know, I expected it. His district probably wants it, so he's probably representing the people that he was sent to represent. But here's the first president in my lifetime to do anything about water for the valley, and Jim Costa wants him removed from office. First president, Donald Trump. So from the standpoint of the entire valley, Costa's vote was a real letdown. But for his own district, he probably did what he thought his voters wanted him to do.
What he had to do, maybe.
What he had to do.
Because
he has a primary.
Right.
And I think if he would have voted no, his entire primary election would have been about that vote.
Okay, so history has now been told here, Jim. We have an impeached president for just the third time. And Nunes is backing him 1,000,000%. Does that hurt him?
No, I don't think so. And I think in regards to his upcoming election, I think you'll see Devin Nunes bouncing back from, I wouldn't say a close race with Andrew Jantz, but obviously closer than I think he would have liked back last cycle. I think Devin will be just fine. I think, once again, speaking about the constituents in Jim Costa's district, I think in regards to Devin Nunes' district, matches the same sort of vigor. So I don't see this being shocking to anyone.
No, let me come to you, Ricardo, because I know that you're helping out on the Bobby Bliatu campaign, running against Nunes. In this district, there's a little bit more NPPs, no party preference here, in this district. Do you think Bliatu can take advantage or even fill our bio here?
What Bobby's doing in this campaign is expanding the electorate. If you look at the ones that traditionally voted in the last one, it was only a 5% margin that Nunes won against. That damage came from Nunes himself. But if you continue to go after those NPP people, they're mainly partisan, not registered that way. So what Bobby is doing is expanding it to people who are more progressive, who don't normally come out to vote, to come out to actually vote. Tulare County is very, very close in some areas of actually becoming Democrat within District 22, which is the majority of
Would you say, sitting right here, Nunes will be defeated?
I think it's going to be very close, and I think Bobby has a strong chance of pushing it over the edge finally in November. You expand that down to Tulare County.
Bobby will have to do it for free because he's not going to raise enough money. Jantz threw $9 million at Nunes, $9 million, and nobody's going to duplicate that effort. So they came as close as they're going to come last time. However, Nunes can't not run a campaign. He has to run a campaign.
Yeah, he has to run a campaign.
Absolutely. And until redistricting happens, obviously, we'll have to take a look at those numbers after redistricting. But listen, I said this when Andrew Jantz ran. I'll say it again. Until the DCCC starts getting involved, really behind the candidate and really starts putting money behind it, it's going to be people trying to raise money on Twitter, and I don't see them doing that with this race.
It's how you raise the money and what the messaging is.
But
even $9 million didn't do anything for us last time.
It really wasn't
the
it really wasn't the DCCC last time. It was Act Blue, so which is not a party organization. So, you know, Jantz's money. I think Jantz thought people were giving money to him, but they weren't. They were giving against Nunes.
Well, let me go here because, and I don't want to pick on Costa too much, but hey, he got the business from his own party for going to a party, and that would be the congressional ball.
That's where we're at in America today. That's right where we're at.
Is that going to come back and haunt him?
I don't think that's going to hurt him. I think within the progressive movement, they already want to see somebody more progressive than Costa, so their minds are already made up. It's just solidifying people where they already are right now. It's not going to take away support, and it's not going to give support to anybody else.
All right, I want to do something that, well, we're going to take out the crystal ball, right? Here's what we're going to do. This is, as we head into 2020, we know that a lot could happen. But on the national stage, we'll get into the local stage a little bit later, but will President Trump, well, let's just do this. I want to go, Jim, I'm going to start with you. Political predictions on the national stage. What is the biggest prediction?
I still think that Joe Biden will not be the nominee for the Democratic Party, and I think it's going to be someone much more progressive than he, and I'm still thinking that Bernie Sanders has a shot at being the nominee. So I think it'll be President Trump versus Bernie Sanders.
Wow, okay.
If it's progressive leftist as the Democrat nominee, they will lose. I will be watching Vigo County, Indiana on election night. It is called every presidential election since 1896. I will watch one county, and it comes in early, 5:30 Fresno time. We will know the winner.
Yeah, and they're picking Mayor Pete.
No, they will not. Vigo County.
I just thought.
Vigo County
It's in Indiana.
Vigo County is in Terre Haute, Indiana, and it has successfully predicted every election, presidential-wise, since 1896.
And that's your big bold prediction.
That is.
Okay, and what's yours, Ricardo?
Well, first of all, I hate to burst your bubble, Alexander, but Hillary's not getting in this race, no matter how much you want it. And number two,
I can't even say my prediction.
we are finally going to realize that Epstein did not kill himself.
There we go.
Okay,
That's your big
it is going to
politically?
be. I do believe that it's going to be Bernie versus Trump.
All right.
It's going to be the extreme from one side in one party to another extreme progressive on the other
In
side.
that
And
case,
we're going to have to do some soul searching in
that
country.
case, Trump's going to win because I think
his base is tapped out.
if you look at the election in Britain, Boris Johnson won the biggest majority of any Conservative Party member since Margaret Thatcher's third term. And the only reason that happened is because Jeremy Corbyn was so far left. I'm not saying it's that the voting patterns are going to be duplicated here, but the one lesson from that is that if you have a far, far left candidate in America, they will not win in the Electoral College.
I'll say this.
Guys, Corbyn is not Sanders, and Trump is not Johnson. They are 4 years behind us.
I got to punctuate it there. I will just put my 2 cents in that none of you said that Trump will be reelected. That was not a prediction by any of you.
It's too early.
Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, but I will say it will be a rematch. Yeah. That's what I say.
Interesting.
It'll be a Republican versus a Democrat. Congratulations.
There you have it. Coming up next, the Republican unknown who's ready to take on President Trump. The newest presidential candidate to jump into the race is from California. Matt Matern will join me next.